Hey everybody, Ben here for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Print to Pitch. This is where we have a look at all things 3D printed for Blood Bowl. We're covering Patreon teams, star players, big guys, and stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with Blood Bowl, but works really good for Blood Bowl. Now, this time we are going to be looking at part 1 of 2 from UGNI Miniatures, and it's their High Elf team. So we had a look the other week at their last release, which was a Lizardman team, and they previewed their High Elves at the end of that. And I was sold. And now they're here. So we are going to have a look at the STLs and then have a look at the prints. Okay, so this is part 1 of 2 for UGNI Miniatures. Now, what they did last time was in 1 month, they basically produced the second part of the Lizardman team. So I'm not entirely sure what their release schedule is going to be like for this team. Whether they're going to be Punga and do half 1 month, half 2 month, or whether actually this is just the first of a second half. If we do have the rest of it, then we'll probably just do another video at the end of the month. So as for this set, you get 2 blitzers, 1 thrower, and I'll tell you what. Let me actually get the sit. Yeah, so we got 2 blitzers, 1 catcher, 2 catchers, sorry, 1 thrower, and 1, 2, 3 linemen. So 8 models all in all. So these guys here are the blitzers, the ones with the kind of very high fantasy knight kind of full armor face. I really love them. That's the thing that I saw that I was like, this is very cool. It's kind of Rivendell, but with an edge of Dark Knight. I don't know, really like it. Then you got 2 catchers, so the top, they're numbered. This is brilliant. 5 and 6 are blitzers, 1 and 3 are catchers, 4 is the throw, 4 must be a lineman, 2 is a thrower, 8 is a thrower, 2 is definitely the thrower, but number 8 looks like they're also throwing, and number 7 is a lineman. So it's an interesting mix of players. Let's have a look at the STLs. So this is the first of the catchers, and I wanted to do this one first because there is a thing to mention with this team that I was a bit surprised by. So it's kind of cool. The catcher and the thrower have got interchangeable hands. Not interchangeable hands, but they come with an option of a ball or no ball here. So we can see with this model, you've got this little plug and you've got the ball there. Now the ball is very much lined up with the Elven Union ball from Games Workshop, which I like. It's got the gemstones in it, which is really cool. But it is something that you will have to build. Now, we've got the printed version of this so we can actually have a look at it. One thing I would say is if you are producing Blood Bowl models and you're doing STLs and you want to have different parts, that is awesome. As a consumer, that is so cool. But it's an STL, so just stick one with one arm and one with the other and have 2 alternates. Brutefun absolutely cracks it out when he does this. He's got like with a face guard, no helmet, just the different versions of the full STL. It makes it a lot easier. Sometimes when you print resin, it can swell and joining bits is a bit fiddly. We'll have a look at that when we have a look at the model. However, look at the sculpting detail on this dude. This is wicked. Like, let's start with the face detail. These are high elves, right? They are supposed to be glamorous, and the detail on the face, the structure, is a little bit exaggerated, but it works so well for a high elf. You can see we've got the noble chin. It's almost a little bit Chad-like, and I tell you what, I think it's brilliant. Now, the actual design for the model fits high elves perfectly. You've got the high greaves, you've got scale mail bits, and then you've got the chest plates to go with it, and you've got some very fancy shoulder pads. I'm gonna admit it. I'm gonna come clean. I am a massive Warhammer Fantasy Battle 4th, 5th, 6th edition High Elf player. I loved High Elves. Silver helms were wicked. Cheeky dragon princes. I absolutely love the aesthetic. I love the lore. Man, I really love the lore. So having a good High Elf team kicking around in Blood Bowl is something that really excites me, especially when it sticks so true to the source material. You've got that kind of silver helm, tall helmet with the wings on, and quite frankly, just the positioning and the detail is really high quality. There is a little bit of kind of detail kicking around when it comes to texture. So with the belt, you've got the scale. You can see it's like interwoven, which means it's going to pick up really nicely. Now, when it comes to high elves, you are expecting like flat areas of steel and stuff like that. It just fits the design very much. So if you are going to be painting this with contrast, then you may have a little bit of free space where you want to keep it tidy. But dude, the dynamism is really good. The fact you got different hands is really good. And the long flowing hair and everything like this. This is the kind of model that I think you can only really 3D print. So extra points for that. And now we're going to have a look at the thrower, which is the other model with the alternate hands. Now, they have done a good job making the plug one way for one model and the other way for the other. So the thrower has the plug extending out of their arm and into the hand. The catcher has the plug going into the arm from the hand, which means when you print them off, because this is a definite thing to flag up, is when you are printing off a team's worth of models that have hands separately, they can get lost in the cleaning process. I very nearly lost one of the hands, it's just like, and then which bit goes with which bit? Having the plugs built this way is actually a really good move. I would prefer them just two different models, two different STLs with the piece on there, but this is a really good way around it. So this is the thrower. And you've got the same high elf aesthetic. You've got the shorts, you've got the high greaves. Now, I like the addition of the shorts here. You didn't really see that on the catcher, but you've got this good stripe. Now, I know I always kind of pick out the stripe, but it's a really great way to help the painter add a little pop of color, so you can just paint the model whatever color you like. And then you've got these two stripes. Now, painting stripes freehand is challenging. Having it actually on the model is a really great way to just be like, and stripes, and now it's sports, right? So go sports. And there's a ton of great detail. You've got, again, the Chad face, but you've got like this cool belt buckle, and you've got the high helmet, and you've got the long flowing hair. Do you know what? When I printed these out, I had no problem with the hair cracking off as part of supports, or with these bits here. So they've done a really good job making sure that even though they've got flowing thin bits, that they're actually strong enough to not come away when you're removing the supports. So I guess I gotta give them another point for that. Long detail that you can only print, but having it sturdy enough so that it doesn't fall apart as part of the print process, winning. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at both of the Blitzer models. So these are the face masks that I was talking around that kind of are really high fantasy. These ones are not very high elf in aesthetic, but I think that's what's really good at separating them from the rest of the team. The rest of the team looks proper 4th edition high elves. Now, these players here have got the same body types, the same greaves, the same shorts, and all that kind of stuff. But where they've got those face masks, it really separates them. So you've got the overall high elf aesthetic. They don't have shoulder pads, which is interesting. It makes them, I guess, faster runners. But that mask separates them, but has this kind of, like I said, Rivendell kind of vibe to it. That kind of reminds me of the helmets from Last Alliance. And it works really well. And the great thing about this is it allows you to use these players for Dark Elves. Now, if you're a high elf aficionado, you'll know how offensive that is. But actually, this is going to work really well. So if you're brewing up a high elf team, great. If you're brewing up an Elven Union team, great. If you've got Dark Elves, the mask bit works really well. Now, again, there's a ton of detail. You've got the belt buckles, you've got all the buckles and greaves on there, you've got long flowing cloaks, and you've got the fancy hair. And again, I am very pleased to say that I think I had one support failure, but otherwise, everything here was perfect. Didn't even crack off the wings on the helmet pieces. Right, we've had a look at the STLs. They do come pre-supported, so I tell you what, let's just have a look at one of the supported blitzers right now while we're here, and we can kind of see. So they are thin-edged supports, and you gotta be careful. So there's two things here to mention. One, they are quite thin, and I did have a bit of a print fail on some hair on one of the models. Basically it just came away flat, and which is very indicative of a support fail. I can't find the model, but we'll have a look at it in a second. And yeah, so I would probably recommend supporting your own. And the other bit is, because of the angle these have been supported at, you get this chaff around the neck. Now this model's not too bad of an example, but when we look at the 3D prints, you'll see that actually one of them has got a ton of these little scraggly bits of thin support. Now the good thing is, actually, with a hard brush, or I use a teeny tiny screwdriver, you can flick them off before the cleaning process, and actually most of it just goes away. And then once you've cleaned up, if you just get a big old dry brush and just clean up the model a little bit long, you get rid of all that. So it's a good thing. They've done a really good job for most of the supports, but they are tiny fiddly ones, so you're going to have to make sure you catch them. I didn't. Printed, cleaned, cast, and then realised that I had all these scraggly bits around the chin. However, you've got all this detail, all these flowing bits. They are just beautifully sculpted, and the supports, with the exception of one, worked really well. Okay, so it's time to look at the models themselves. So I printed up, I think, almost all of the different models. There was 2 I didn't print, I think, but I printed the most exciting ones, which were, of course, the Blitzers. So this is one of the Blitzers, and I've not done a brilliant job of cleaning it up, but that was sort of so you can see the scraggly bits. Let's see if I can manually get a better shot of that. Can we do it? We can't do it. But you can see there just... can I do this? Just here. There we go. That's a challenge. You've got those little scraggly bits of supports that you have to kind of just clean up. But if you think about how much... I'm going to say one thing, and hopefully most of you will understand what my angle is here. Dark Elf kit from Games Workshop. This, with scraggly supports, some scraggly supports that you have to flick away with whatever tool you have. I'm going to use a green biro because actually that'll probably do it. There you go, model clean. That versus building the Thumb of the Witch Elf from the Games Workshop team. Do you know what? Sign me up for these single piece models. These are fantastic. Right, so full disclosure, printed this on my Elegoo Mars 2 Pro with standard resin, standard settings, and a little bit higher than standard temperature in the UK. It's been a bit sweaty, but hasn't affected the model at all. So looks like there was a little... No, the hair's perfect on the edge there. It just is a bit of a flat sculpt at that point. Kind of underneath, you kind of look at it and you go, oh, maybe there was a bit of a failure there, but there wasn't. So you can see all the cloak detail, and you've got more scraggly bits of support there. Again, worth pointing out. But the positioning, the proportions, and the level of detail is excellent. Shall we check the size? Now, I normally use my strength 3 piece as the thrower from the nobility team, and you can see that at 100% this is a chunky boy of a model. But because we are playing with elves, I thought it was worthwhile grabbing some elf models. So we've got a Dark Elf Blitzer here that we can compare the size to. And it feels a little bit better. These are tall models, though. If you look at kind of the mass, then you can see that actually these high elves are quite big. Now, they will fit on a 32mm base, and if you kind of just have them up against a model, it's not going to cause a problem. Let's grab the Strength 3 human again. Actually, they're elves. Elves are tall. They don't look particularly massive, but they do look like perhaps they're scaled up a little bit too much, and maybe 90%. I didn't do multiple prints for this team, but maybe 90% would be better off. But at that point, you will have to pre-support it. So 100% is quite tall for these guys. It's not too bad. I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if you want it to match Games Workshop, then I would go with 90%. But you're going to have to scale up your own model and support your own model. Now, we've got the Wood Elf team as well. And this dude is giant compared to the Wood Elf team, but the Wood Elf team is on the slight side. Now, I think these models probably size up nicely to the Elven Union team, but I couldn't find, well, I say my team, I couldn't find Ben's team for the one he painted up for our Dungeon Bowl series. So I really hope he's got them, or I've lost them. So that will be a problem. Blitzer number 2, please. Okay, so here's the other Blitzer, the one who's got no full helmet, just the mask. You can see we've got some scraggly supports on the go, but it's a really cool model. It's just got a ton of dynamism. Like, the pose is brilliant. The detail's really good. Like, as a just single individual model, this would be great fun to pick up and paint. And this is the kind of thing, like, if you go back 5-6 years, if you were at Salute and saw this model, you'd be like, wow, here's 8 human coins. I would like to purchase this model. Now we are blessed to pay £8 to support UGNI on's Patreon and get these models and print as many as we like for pennies. So I like that. Now again, let's do the size comparison, and you can see the pose is pretty similar, but the size is not. So these guys are bigger, and again, I'm probably going to say 90% would have this team lined up with your Blood Bowl gear at the right place. I didn't muck around with the sizings when I printed them. I wanted to print them out full scale so we can have a look at the detail. 100 is fine if you want to have it. If you want to just print the pre-supported bit, you're good to go. 100% is not going to look. It's not going to look egregious on the pitch, but it will be a bit bigger than the Games Workshop. Okay, so now we've got the thrower, and actually we get an opportunity to play with the hand for the first time. So again, detail great. It's come out beautifully, and all the long flowing things have come out really nicely. I haven't done a brilliant job of tidying up this from the supports, and that's on me, but you guys should be used to that by now. You got a few scraggly light supports there, or micro supports I probably call them now. So hand wise, let's see what I printed out. So we got the individual hand here with the ball for the thrower, and you've got the thrower here with the peg for the hand. Now I thought we'd just do this to print out and see if it lined up nicely. And it does. So actually they get extra points for getting that right. However, I think just having it as one STL with the ball and one STL without the ball, would save you a little bit of effort of kind of having to glue the model and hope that it comes out all right and not losing the hand in the print. But if you're all right with Chitu box and stuff, you could probably just do that yourself and save it as an STL, then pre-support it. It's a cool model. Like, it's a good pose. It's a classic thrower pose. Let's bring the Dark Elf back just to do the size comparison. Now, the good thing, UGNI seems to be able to get all their models to the same scale. So again, 90% is probably where you want to be for this. And it is a very cool pose. So this is the model that had some issues with support. I thought it was on the hair, but and I think it is still on the hair, but also I've now realized that the dude just is missing a leg. So I probably am gonna, it's probably stuck to the bottom of my plate, which means the print I've got on now is going to fail. That's aggravating. Can't believe I missed the leg. Look, this is one of the lineman. No, this is the catcher model, because you can see because it's got the separate hand. And again, detail's great. Pose is great. You've got the separate hand. The separate hand is quite small, but they've done a good job of kind of compensating for resin swell. So with a bit of work, you can line it up, stick the hand in, and it's not a problem. Not a problem at all. But again, just be careful of the supports. Yeah, that's the problem with pre-supported stuff. Most of the time, it works like an absolute treat. Every now and again, you just get a little failure. It's the same with every company, whether it's UGNI, whether it's Punga, or whether it's Artisan Guild. Pre-supports are a bit of a risk, but they do save you a bit of time. Now, the team does have a couple of female elves on it. One of them I've supported myself. One of them came with the pre-supports. I wanted to make sure that if every pre-support was bad, that I'd have at least one model to compare from a size point of view. And again, you've got the same level of detail and the same level of just really good quality flowing poses that I genuinely don't think you could get in a non-3D printed environment. Recently, War Machine have said that they're going 3D printing to produce their own models, and actually this kind of sculpt and this is amazing. Like, if this was released 3-4 years ago from Forge World, first of all, it would have been £30, but secondly, each of these bits of hair would have to be glued on individually. So I absolutely love that point of design. And just for completeness' sake, actually, if you've got a scale by scale comparison, again, probably 90% is where you'd want them, but the female ones are a little bit smaller, but they're still head and shoulders above a human, which is a little bit tall for my version of Elves. Okay, so there you have it. We've got a very, very cool team here from UGNI, a very cool team of High Elves. I'm a huge High Elf fan. There are a couple of good High Elf teams kicking around at the moment. This one is going to slot right in there. And, I mean, pros, the sculpting's beautiful, the posing's beautiful, and the style fits excellently. Cons, careful of your if your pre-supports, probably support them yourself, and then maybe scale the models down. Both of those things are fully within our control as printers. So if you're watching this video and you have yet to print your UGNI team, that would be my suggestion. But the sculpts are awesome. And I love what UGNI are doing, and I really am excited to see part 2 of this team. But then I'm really hoping they're going to move on to some cool star players, because each one of these sculpts is really nicely done. And I think if and when UGNI takes on star players, we are going to get some really high quality models, and that really excites me, because any one of these models would be great fun to paint as it on its own, which is a testament to the level of energy that goes into it. There's not a lot of cut and paste in this, and that makes me very happy. Anyway guys, let me know what you think of UGNI's work here in the comments below, and I'm going to go check and see if my printer's failed or not. Anyway, I'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy printing. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content, we get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.